Chapter 10. Capital Bound. Marcus woke to the familiar sounds of his dorm room. Tyler's mechanical keyboard clicking steadily, the distant hum of the heating system. For a moment he felt disoriented, his mind still processing the medieval camp, the weight of a sword in his hands, the rhythmic pace of marching. He sat up slowly, checking his phone. 2047 a.m. The room was dark except for the glow of Tyler's multiple monitors, where his roommate was apparently deep in some kind of late-night gaming session, headphones clamped over his ears. The transition between worlds always felt jarring, but tonight it seemed particularly stark. In Valdres he'd been planning business ventures with enhanced strength and magical abilities. Here he was, a college freshman struggling to pass chemistry. But the midterm season was over and Marcus realized he felt more relaxed than he had in weeks. The pressure of exams had lifted, and while his grades weren't stellar, he'd managed to avoid complete disaster. More importantly, he'd gained valuable insights into what the capital might offer. He reached for his laptop. If he was going to help his Valdres family succeed in Dracmore, he needed to understand what kinds of opportunities a medieval capital might provide. He started with basic searches: medieval city economics, guild systems, urban markets in pre-industrial societies. The information was fragmentary but useful. Cities were centers of trade, specialized crafts and knowledge exchange. Marcus opened a new document and began making notes. Potential products for Dracmore, improved soaps and cleaning products, better construction materials, techniques, food preservation methods, simple tools and devices, writing materials and paper. Tom's strengths: physical abilities, loyal and trustworthy, quick learner for practical skills, natural protection, security capabilities. Capital advantages: larger market for products, access to raw materials through trade, guild connections and business networks, proximity to scholars and academy resources. He spent the next hour researching historical examples of successful innovations in medieval cities. The printing press improved metallurgy, architectural advances. All had spread through urban centers where skilled craftsmen and merchants could recognize their value.
Yo, Marcus, you're up late. Everything okay?
Just doing some research. Bah!
Research? Dude, midterms are over. You're supposed to be celebrating, not studying. Medieval economics? Are you creating a D&D campaign?
Something like that. I'm thinking about what kinds of businesses would work in a medieval city.
Oh? Like economic simulation stuff? That's actually pretty cool. I've seen some streamers do medieval merchant roleplay. It's surprisingly complex.
Any ideas what would be most profitable?
Well, in most games, the key is finding something everyone needs, but nobody else is making efficiently, like basic necessities with improved quality or convenience. Why are you thinking about writing a business management game?
Maybe, just exploring possibilities.
Cool. Well, if you need any help with game mechanics or market research, let me know. I've got connections in the indie game community.
After Tyler returned to his setup, Marcus closed his laptop and lay back down. The research had been helpful, but more importantly, it had given him confidence in his plans. The capital would offer opportunities, and with Tom as his partner, they could build something worthwhile. In a couple of days, they might reach Dracmore. Marcus intended to be ready. The next few days passed in a blur of relative normalcy. In the modern world, Marcus caught up on his coursework, spent time with Jake and Tyler, and gradually felt his stress levels drop. His midterm performance had been better than expected, and for the first time in weeks, he wasn't panicking about immediate academic crises. In Valdres, the caravan continued its steady march toward the capital. The days fell into a comfortable rhythm, walking, helping other refugees, sharing stories around evening campfires. Marcus found himself growing stronger physically and more confident in his ability to handle whatever challenges awaited them in Dracmore. But it was the morning of the 6th day that everything changed. Marcus woke to the sound of horns echoing across the valley and the excited murmur of hundreds of voices. After 18 days of walking, the evacuation column had finally reached their destination.
Marcus, come see. It's the biggest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Marcus rolled out of his bedroll and stumbled to his feet, his body automatically adjusting to the pre-dawn chill and the familiar aches of sleeping on the ground. 18 days of travel had hardened him in ways he'd never expected. His hands were calloused from helping with wagons, his legs stronger from constant walking, his shoulders broader from carrying supplies. But nothing could have prepared him for his first sight of Drakmor. The capital city was nestled against a semicircle of towering mountains, their peaks snow-capped and imposing like the fortress cities from his literature classes. The city itself sprawled across the valley floor, protected by mountains on 3 sides and massive stone walls on the 4th. The walls rose impossibly high, punctuated by towers that seemed to scrape the sky itself. Behind the walls, Marcus could see layer upon layer of buildings climbing up the mountainside in terraces. Some built of gray stone, some of timber, some made from materials he couldn't identify from this distance. The architecture seemed to flow with the natural contours of the mountains, as if the city had grown organically from the rock itself. And the size. The sheer overwhelming size of it all.
How many people live there?
Perhaps 600,000 souls within the walls, another 100,000 in the outer settlements. I take it Millhaven didn't prepare you for such scale.
Millhaven has maybe 300 people. This is...
He trailed off his mind, trying to process what he was seeing. From his modern world perspective, 600,000 people wasn't that impressive. Chicago alone had nearly 3 million. But seeing such a concentration of population in a medieval setting was staggering. The logistics alone must be incredible. Food distribution, waste management, water supply governance. And the opportunities.
Sister Cora, what do people do for work in a city that size?
Everything imaginable. Craftsmen, merchants, scholars, entertainers, builders, scribes, smiths, bakers, brewers. Why? What are you thinking?
Marcus was thinking about soap, about improved agriculture techniques, about writing systems and basic hygiene and all the small innovations that had impressed people in tiny Millhaven. In a city of 600,000 people, how many would pay for better soap? How many merchants might want improved record-keeping systems? How many problems existed that could be solved with knowledge from his modern world?
I'm thinking that a city this size must have challenges that a village never faces.
Indeed it does. And opportunities as well for those clever enough to see them.
The column began its final approach to Drakmor's gates as the sun climbed higher. Marcus walked beside the wagons, watching the city grow larger and more overwhelming with each step. The walls were even more massive than they'd appeared from a distance, 50 feet high and thick enough for walkways along the top. Guards in gleaming mail watched their approach, but without hostility. This was clearly a planned arrival.
Look at all the people.
Even outside the walls, the activity was incredible. Merchant camps, temporary markets, travelers from dozens of different kingdoms, judging by their varied clothing and equipment. Marcus heard languages he didn't recognize, saw goods he couldn't identify, smelled foods that made his mouth water despite their alien spicing.
Overwhelming, isn't it? Your first time seeing a true city?
Yes, sir, it's incredible.
And profitable for those with the right ideas. The capital rewards innovation, Marcus of Millhaven, particularly the kind that solves practical problems for large numbers of people.
As they passed through the gates, Marcus felt culture shock hit him like a physical blow. The noise was incredible. Thousands of voices, wagon wheels on cobblestones, hammers ringing from workshops, animals protesting their treatment. The smells were equally overwhelming. Food smoke, leather metal spices, and the unmistakable odor of too many people living too close together. But beneath the sensory overload, Marcus recognized something familiar, the energy of commerce, of people buying and selling and making and building.
Stay close. We'll be processed through the refugee settlement office, assigned temporary housing, and given information about work opportunities.
Marcus's mind was already racing. Temporary housing meant rent to pay. Work opportunities meant competition for jobs. His family needed income and quickly. But he had advantages no one else in their group possessed, knowledge from a world centuries ahead of this 1 and 18 days of travel to think about how to apply it.
Tom, I think we're going to do well here.
Course we are. You've got that look again.
What look? What look?
The same one you had when you figured out how to cure the cattle itch, the planning look. What are you planning now?
Marcus looked around at the bustling city, at the merchants haggling, the craftsmen working the obvious inefficiencies in how goods moved through the crowded streets. He thought about soap chemistry, about writing systems, about the business principles he'd absorbed through Tyler's endless optimization discussions.
Everything. I'm planning everything.
For the first time since learning about Malakar's threat, Marcus felt something beyond mere survival instinct. This city represented opportunity on a scale he'd never imagined. 600,000 potential customers for better products, improved services, more efficient solutions to daily problems. If he could establish himself here, build a network, create valuable connections, maybe he could do more than help his family survive. Maybe he could help fight back against the Dark Wizard's advances. But first he needed to understand how Drakmore really worked, how business was conducted, who held power, what problems needed solving. He needed to learn the rules of the game before he could start changing them.
Tom, I want you to remember this moment. This is where everything changes for us.
Good change or bad change?
Marcus looked ahead at the spires and towers rising before them, at the incredible complexity of a medieval city that somehow supported 600,000 people through pure human ingenuity and determination.
Good change. Definitely good change.
As their group was led toward the refugee processing center, Marcus began mentally cataloging everything he saw: the layout of streets, the types of businesses, the way goods moved through the city, the obvious bottlenecks and inefficiencies. By the time they reached their temporary housing, Marcus had filled 3 pages of his crude bark paper with notes and observations. The real work was about to begin, and Marcus Chen, armed with knowledge from 2 worlds and the absolute loyalty of the strongest person he knew, was ready to change everything.